All right, so today we're diving into something pretty fascinating,
Oh, yeah.
lipidomics.
Okay.
And, our listener is really interested in the connection between chronic inflammation and colon cancer.
Right.
So we've got a couple of research articles here that I think are going to help us kind of unpack that.
Okay, cool.
The goal here is not to just like summarize these articles, but to pull out like the most surprising stuff,
Yeah,
the stuff that makes you go, huh, I never thought about it that way before.
I like it.
So let's just jump right in.
Yeah, let's do it.
The first thing that struck me when I was reading these articles is just how complex lipids are.
Yeah, it's a lot more than just fats and oils, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like I always thought, just eat less fat and that'll lower your risk of all sorts of things.
Right, it's not quite that simple. See, lipidomics looks at the entire collection of lipids,
Oh, okay.
the lipidome. And get this, the human body contains over 35,000 unique lipid structures.
Whoa, 45,000.
Yeah, it's a lot. Each one plays a specific role, from building our cells to sending signals throughout the body.
So it's like a whole communication system within the body.
Yeah, you could think about it that way.
That's crazy.
Okay.
Okay, but how does all this connect to colon cancer?
So one of the articles that you sent over focuses on ulcerative colitis, or UC.
Right.
It's a chronic inflammatory bowel disease, and it's a known risk factor for colon cancer.
Oh, wow. So that constant inflammation in the colon, that could actually make cancer more likely.
Exactly. And this study found something super interesting. They found a set of genes that are underexpressed, meaning they're not functioning as they should, in both UC and colon cancer.
Hmm. So are these genes maybe acting as a sort of brake on cancer development?
It's a good way to think about it, yeah.
And when they're not working properly, that brake is released.
Right. And some of these genes, like NR1H4 and MS4A12, could be potential tumor suppressors.
Really?
There are even more genes in the study, like CLCA1 and PPRGC1A, that are linked to worse outcomes in patients who already have colon cancer.
So are scientists like trying to find ways to target these genes?
Absolutely.
To like turn them back on?
Yeah, that's one of the exciting avenues of research in this field. If we can figure out how to manipulate these genes, we might be able to develop new ways to prevent or even treat colon cancer.
Wow. Now, you also sent me an article about exercise and lipid metabolism.
Yes.
And I have to admit, I was surprised to learn that blood tests might not be the most reliable way to track lipid changes.
Right, so blood tests are like a snapshot. It's what's happening in your body right now, but it
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily tell the whole story.
Like what's going on in a specific tissue could be completely different.
You got it. It's like trying to understand a city by only looking at traffic patterns.
Oh, I like that.
You'll get some information, but you won't truly understand the dynamics of each neighborhood.
Right, right. Each neighborhood is doing its own thing.
Exactly. This is why studying individual tissues is so important.
So is there like an example from the study that illustrates that?
Yeah, so they found that in mice, exercise caused an increase in a certain type of fat called triacylglycerol, or TAG, in the liver.
Okay.
But in muscle, TAG actually decreased after exercise.
Oh, interesting. So the liver is storing fat
Potentially for later use, yeah.
while the muscles are burning it for energy.
Exactly. And this highlights just how complex the relationship between exercise and lipids really is.
Yeah, for sure.
Each tissue responds differently, and that's something we need to consider when we think about, personalized exercise recommendations.
That makes sense. This is all incredibly fascinating. But I have to admit, my brain is starting to feel a little full. Maybe this is a good spot for us to take a breath.
Yeah, let's take a pause. Okay, ready to jump back in.
Oh, yeah. I'm ready when you are.
Awesome. So, we were talking about that exercise article right before the break. One thing that really stood out to me was how endurance exercise, it like really shifts the way our bodies use energy, you know?
Okay.
Like it really ramps up the use of fatty acids as fuel.
Oh.
And that triggers changes in all sorts of different lipids, those oxides and diols we were talking about earlier.
Right, right. So it's not just about like burning fat. It's changing the way our bodies are actually using and processing those lipids.
Yeah, exactly. And those changes, they can have like ripple effects throughout the whole body. They can affect inflammation, energy production, a whole bunch of stuff.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We talked about how diverse lipids are and how inflammation might lead to colon cancer and how exercise can change those lipids.
Mm-hmm.
But how does this all connect back to what we were talking about at the beginning? Like, can we use this knowledge to actually fight colon cancer?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Researchers are still working on that, but lipidomics is giving us a powerful new way of looking at this whole connection between inflammation, lipid metabolism, and cancer.
Yeah. So are you saying, like, if we can pinpoint which lipids are involved in colon cancer, we can maybe manipulate them to prevent or treat it?
You're thinking along the right lines. That's driving a lot of research right now.
Wow.
Imagine, like, targeted therapies that actually tweak lipid metabolism in a way that stops tumor growth or makes other treatments more effective.
That would be amazing. But let's go back to those underexpressed genes for a second. We talked about how some of them might be tumor suppressors. How does that tie in with lipids?
Well, some of those genes are directly involved in lipid metabolism.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah. So if we could boost the activity of those genes, it could change how the body handles lipids and maybe even, stop cancer from developing.
That's wild. And we were talking about that study with mice and how exercise affected different tissues.
Hmm.
Could that, could similar things be happening in humans?
That's what researchers are trying to figure out right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And if so, could we actually use that information to create personalized exercise plans?
It's definitely a possibility. Imagine, custom exercise and diet recommendations based on someone's lipid profile, to,
Mhm.
optimize their metabolism and lower their risk of colon cancer. Okay. But that's way down the line, right?
It is, but it's exciting to think about.
Mm.
And even beyond the potential applications, it's just mind-blowing to think about how complex this all is. Every new study just peels back another layer of this intricate system.
Yeah, and lipidomics is giving us a way to map it all out.
Exactly. We're just starting to understand how lipids communicate within this system. It's fascinating.
It really is.
Okay.
I think we need another pause here. I need a minute to process all of this. All right, I think I've caught my breath.
Me too. It's a lot to take in, but it's really exciting stuff.
Yeah, it really is. It feels like we're on the edge of a whole new frontier of scientific discovery.
Absolutely. And, you came here wanting to know if we can use lipidomics to fight colon cancer.
Right, right.
And I think we've seen some pretty compelling evidence that it might be possible.
Yeah, we've learned that lipids are way more than we thought they were, and they're involved in all these processes of inflammation and cancer.
Mm-hmm. And how exercise can actually change those processes, potentially protecting us.
And that what's going on in our blood might not be the whole story.
Right. Those differences between tissues, that could be the key to new treatments.
So if you had to sum up everything we've talked about, what are the big takeaways?
I think the main takeaway is that lipidomics is a powerful new tool.
Mm-hmm.
It could revolutionize how we understand complex diseases like colon cancer.
It's like we've got this new, super powerful microscope that lets us see things we never could before.
Exactly. Now we can really see the connections between lipids, inflammation, and cancer.
And that opens up a whole world of possibilities for new treatments.
Yeah. Like those underexpressed genes we talked about, if we can find a way to get them working better, we might be able to stop colon cancer before it even starts.
And then there's personalized medicine.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine being able to tailor exercise plans based on someone's lipid profile.
Right. It's like creating a custom roadmap for each person to lower their risk.
Amazing. But there's still so much we don't know, right?
Oh, yeah, definitely. We need more research to really understand all these lipids and how they work.
So what are you most curious about right now? What are the big mysteries you're trying to solve?
I'm really interested in figuring out how to develop those personalized strategies we talked about.
Right.
Can we find specific biomarkers or lipid profiles that predict someone's risk of colon cancer?
So we could tailor treatments for each person?
Exactly. It's about moving beyond those one-size-fits-all approaches.
Yeah, embracing the complexity of biology. And this goes way beyond just colon cancer, right?
Absolutely. Lipidomics has implications for all sorts of diseases. Heart disease, diabetes, Alzheimer's, even autoimmune disorders.
It's incredible to think about. So if you could leave our listener with one final thought, what would be?
Stay curious. Keep asking questions. Those tiny molecules that make up our bodies, they hold so much power. Lipidomics is changing how we think about human health, and I think it's going to lead to some amazing breakthroughs in the future.
I love that. And to our listener, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into lipidomics. We hope you've learned something new and maybe even feel a little bit inspired to learn more. Keep those minds curious